right, Miss Affa, you wanted to make a point.
I'd like to ask the people here that are bearing arms, do you go into our courthouse with your arms? Do you go into federal buildings with your guns? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that you're not allowed in these buildings with your guns? Mr. Walker pointed something out that this is how my colleagues and I feel. Tempers do get flared in here. We've had the officer escort people out on several occasions. We're very vulnerable up here, and I think, Mr. Hanlon, you did do some type of survey where there were community building venues like this that people were shot and hurt. There were pretty many of them, I understand. That's the point. We're not taking your guns away from you. I don't care what you carry on the street. We feel vulnerable up here. I think in the entire city hall itself, people are upset with taxes. People are upset with things. People are upset with how we rule. That's what we're trying to say. We're not trying to take your guns away. Believe me. That's the reason they don't have them in federal buildings. And I'm speaking. You all had your chance to speak. Please sit down. This is why the federal buildings and our courthouse, you can't walk in the courthouse with a gun, but you can come into city council and be armed in here. This is what we don't want. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from council?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Aside from my remarks, which I plan to make, even before Mr. Whitney had gotten up, I agree with you that this was language that shouldn't have been in here. There's actually an issue where this is a draft copy, which is why there's language at the end of it that's not actually part of the resolution. So I was planning from the beginning to make an amendment to clean that up, but I do agree with you, Mr. Whitney, this stuff does have to come across in the right way. So, but I would like to make an amendment to change in the 6th whereas to simply state that whereas the presence of firearms can intimidate others and prevent open dialogue, semicolon, and also remove the 8th whereas, which is that Allentown City Council believes a majority of citizens are downright astonished, the exact provision that Mr. Whitney spoke of. So an amendment to adjust the language in the 6th whereas and to remove the 8th whereas, and I would ask for a second from one of my colleagues to adjust that language. Thank you, Mr. Greedy.
We have a second by Mr. Greedy. I said we have a second by Mr. Greedy.
The 6th and the last.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
If you could, Mr. Robinson, can you read what you want to remove? 6th, whereas?
Surely. So in the 6th, it currently states, give me one second here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whereas public meetings are a place where tempers flare and residents parading around with firearms not only is unacceptable to us, but can intimidate others and prevent open dialogue, semicolon, and the language that I would propose would simply state that whereas the presence of firearms can intimidate others and prevent open dialogue, semicolon, and.
I don't think it's hindered any dialogue tonight.
Well, we don't know for certain, though. But I would ask my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President. And then on the regular resolution, I do have some comments.
Okay, now we're on the amendments, the 2 amendments. Any comments? Any comments from the public on the amendments? Seeing none on the.
I'd just like to say thank you to Courtney, and also to remind you that I believe there are 2 places where the word parading is used, and I believe that your amendment should include changing the word parading to walking.
If I am correct on this, Mr. Whitney, and the second whereas, the second area where it says parading is actually the whereas that we're completely removing.
Okay, so nowhere in this resolution will it say parading?
Correct.
Great.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the language that is after where it says be it further resolved is not actually language of the resolution. That was stuff that was draft that was included. So,
Great.
But yes, so both of those instances are being removed from the resolution.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public on the amendments? Yeah. So seeing nobody on the amendments, Mr. Hanlon.
Yeah, so on the amendments, whereas Mr. Robinson read in the last whereas. Yeah, and that stuff at the end, after be it further resolved that a copy of the resolution be sent, that was actually notes.
Correct.
Yeah, so we had problems copying, saving stuff, which is why the thing looked a little archaic. Okay, on the amendments, Ms. Appa.
Yes.
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
On the amendments, yes.
We have 7 yeas and no nays.
All right, now we're back to the bill as amended, correct? All right,
There will be questions. I mean, comments. No, for the amendment. Go ahead, you have something prepared.
I insist, because
It's-
it won't be relevant if no one else speaks.
Okay, if I may?
Go ahead.
No, thank you. You know, I'm not opposed to the Second Amendment. I want to make that clear. I actually don't mind if you want to wear your gun anywhere else. I think we are, and I have a permit myself, okay? So it's not that I'm against guns. The issue for me is, as Ms. Affa, Councilwoman Affa pointed out, if I go to the courthouse, I don't have to, I mean, I couldn't carry an arm there. I couldn't carry a gun. If I go over to the government center, I couldn't carry a gun. If I go to a school, usually they don't allow it. They have it's open, but particularly the places that I travel the most in Allentown is the courthouse and also the government center. And I'd never seen anybody, and the airports, by the way, I've never seen anybody not wanting to give up their guns or put them away or carry them inside. People are okay doing that. And I think what you say is very important in regards to how vulnerable we are. And it's a case that happened in a town in Pennsylvania, I forget the name of the town, that they shot a couple of council members. And when I saw that was about 5 years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I saw that and I was like, my wife said, and my kids were watching this, and they actually were scared. I said, you're a council member, look what's happening to them, and you're safe in there. And I said, the majority of the people that we get are not really violent, but there are some. And I myself, when I was president, had to get 2 people out of here because of the way they were behaving. And I had to luckily we have a police officer. And I think the public that comes here, some of you said, well, we're gonna save you. We're gonna be between you and whoever is asylum it. Well, guess what? There won't be any, because they're not gonna bring the gun here. So that point is actually moot. There won't be anybody carrying a gun in here if the state passes a law. So you don't have to get yourself in harm's way because you're carrying a gun. You don't have to protect us because there's no gun here. So those points, I mean, I understand them, I believe in. I know that the majority of the people who carry guns are well-respected people and they don't violate the laws, but there are people who do. And we're not worrying about you. I mean, this gentleman comes over almost every meeting and he's here with a gun. I mean, I don't know you from anywhere. I mean, I see you, I talk to you, but I don't know what you're thinking in your head. I don't know if you're watching me and thinking, I'm gonna shoot you. Obviously, you're not gonna do that, Yeah, but, what was that? Yeah, no, yeah, I'm sorry for using your name, but I'm just saying in general, okay? So, it's an issue that concerns most of us here. And I think if we don't have any guns, we don't have to carry that concern. In here, in the public, we're not saying outside, we're not saying anywhere else, we're not saying in your home, we're not anywhere else. I have a gun, I have it in my house. Now, in my business, my wife had a business, and somebody came over, and with a 7-inch knife, put a knife on her drawer, asked for the money, and she had an employee. Early in the morning, my kid was actually in a crib in the back of the business. And we felt really bad about it. And I said, you know what, we're gonna go over and buy a gun. Okay, and we did. My wife never wanted to use it, to carry it, I'm sorry. But I do feel a little safer having a gun in my house. But this is not my house. This is a public building, and a lot of people are here. And because of that reason, I chose to co-sponsor this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.